Hello and welcome to the SpyShack podcast, a podcast where Survivor superfans get together and talk about the latest episode of Survivor. Tonight we are talking episode 8 of Survivor Ghost Island, Fear Keeps You Sharp. I am joined tonight by 3 co-hosts. Mark, how are you doing tonight? And give us one word to describe the episode.
Yeah, I'm doing great today. It's a great episode to talk about. A lot happened as always with the merge. So my one word for this week will have to be beast mode, hyphenated.
That I'll take it. It's accepted. Kim, how are you doing tonight? And what's your one word?
I'm doing okay, and like always, I miss and I love my son, and I think about him every day. My one word is trash.
Wow! And we are joined again by our permanent sub, Doug. Doug, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. And my one word is actually just one number, and that's 90%. And I'll explain later.
I can take that. And I am Randy, and my one word to describe the episode was noble. I think that sums itself up pretty well. Well, I will jump right into it, just like the episode jumped right into the merge. We are at the merge, ladies and gentlemen. We see the Yanuya and the Malolo tribes taking boats to join Navidi at the merge beach. We get right into a merge feast full of food. As you noticed, was not sponsored by Outback Steakhouse. I thought that was a little bit odd. Maybe we'll get that later. And everyone takes a random seat to pick up a black buff for the new merge tribe at La Vida. We see Dom welcome everyone to the beach with a little speech, and Chris responds with a rap again. So what do you guys think of the merge right away? What do you think of black buffs? And it's a good thing we're at Navidi. It makes, in honor of Bradley, I think it's what he would have wanted. What did you guys think?
I thought they went like pretty fast into this merge. Like it was merged when it started. I thought it was okay. It was basic. They eat together. They come together. Someone always gives a speech. No, not everybody raps. But there was no shocking surprises. It was basically what I think always happens in a merge. Yeah. So it was basic.
What about you guys? Any other opinions here?
Yeah, I loved that the first scene was just the boats. There was no announcement they were merging. There was no pretense. There was no scenes before that. It was just like, here's a merge. We're eating. The eating isn't that exciting, so let's get into some conversations.
Yeah, let's do this. I agree.
Oh, wait. I want to add something. Wait. I thought it was pretty dope how they hid the clue for the idol in one of the buffs.
Yeah, we know when
the idol.
When they flat out tell us right away, well, we took random seats to sit down. You know something's coming, but we'll get into more on that a little bit later. But I really enjoyed it, as Doug said. We're getting right to it. The only thing that I missed this episode that I wish we would have had is I wish we would have had a reaction to Bradley being the one eliminated last. Yeah. I really was hoping to see some sort of reaction from Kellen or anyone else. That's always one thing I really like in the pre-merge is seeing everyone else's reaction to the most recent person eliminated. So I did kind of miss that, but that's fine. We got right into it. I was good.
Yeah.
So as go ahead, Mark.
No, it's just I think they were just excited to get to the merge, and even if they had any sort of reaction to Bradley leaving, I think all of that, as you can see from the excitement at the merge, that doesn't really even matter anymore. So
I agree. So as we after the merge feast, as Kim alluded to back at camp, Chris finds a note in his buff that tells him there's something waiting for him at Tree Mill. So as he goes to Tree Mill, the clue tells him about a hidden idol at Ghost Island and that he has to take a boat overnight to Ghost Island to find this. Let's talk about just the clue itself, not getting into what happened at Ghost Island. We'll get to that part later. What did you guys think of this idea that that there was a clue hidden there, and 2, that he's going to have to sneak away?
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. I loved it. It was, for me, the best search of a clue. I mean, an idol in a very long time.
Search is a nice word because there wasn't much of a search, but there was risk. I can agree.
He had to really take a chance to leave.
Yeah.
And no one know he left. It was exciting for me. I was like, this is great. You know, it's been so basic and normal, and finally we get one where there's a whole lot more risk involved with going. It was exciting for me. I liked it.
I was just kind of wondering because that little boat was actually louder than I thought it was going to be. I was like, how did nobody wake up to it?
Yeah, I don't know. They set this up really, really well. This is like the first of my 90% things. I loved everything about this except the way that the clue was hidden. Mm-hmm. I don't like congratulations, you sat here clues. But everything else about it I thought was fantastic. I loved that there was like actual risk involved in this. I know we'll get to it, but the fact that they've already established that Dominic doesn't sleep made this perfect.
No, I agree. I thought this was cool, and I'm fine with the kind of random. And I think this is the place to do it. Is at the merge, the random like injection of some sort of clue. Other times at like a random reward, I'm not a huge fan of it. I like the ones because at the merge, everyone's there at the merge feast. So I think I like it when it's something like that instead of, hey, these 3 people want a reward and one of them might find something. But we'll get into more about that the inner workings of that twist coming up in a little bit. So we get back to camp. The original Navides discuss if they're going to be able to make it work. Can we work with Chris and Dom together? Can we just do this for one vote at least? So Wendell decides to sit Dom and Chris down, and it really doesn't go well. Chris is not having it at all. He is not buying what Wendell and Dom are selling. What do you guys think of this? Of the Navides trying to come back together, of the way Wendell handled it, and the way that Chris completely blew it off at this point in time?
I think that this is the beginning of really understanding where Chris's big crack in the game is. Up to this point, like, sure, Chris hasn't had to prove that he's good at the game, but he's shown a lot of really good signs and a lot of really good behaviors that we wouldn't have expected. But it's really, really obvious that Chris doesn't know the biggest rule of Survivor, which is always say yes. He wasn't saying yes, and then later we see that he doesn't understand that this is something other people are doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right after that later that night, this is what we wanted to talk about. Chris's secret trip to Ghost Island. At night, Chris escapes away from camp, gets on the boat, goes to Ghost Island. We come upon Ghost Island at night, all lit up with fire, wind blowing. I loved it. I thought that was absolutely great. At Ghost Island, Chris just walks right up to the table, and there's JT's unused idol from Game Changers, which is now, because JT did so poorly with it, has lost some power and is now only usable at one tribal council. But also in front of Chris is a set of decisions where he can risk losing his vote to extend the life of his idol for additional tribals. In this game, he is able to extend it by one tribal council, but then immediately loses his vote right after that. What did you guys think of Ghost Island at night and the way that Ghost Island was used this episode?
The drone shot was really beautiful with all the fire and the wind blowing. It was really something else. And that little game is a little trickier than you might think. Just because the more you extend that idle life, the more comfortable you are with the game. And so I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to actually get it.
Exactly. Was Chris actually getting the extension? Is the dagger to his game?
Yeah,
if he would have lost on the first round, he would have been forced to use the idol at Tribal Council, which I don't want to get too much into Tribal Council now. But to me, that could have been what lost him the game right there.
Possible.
So I find that very interesting. But I really enjoyed the way that Ghost Island was used here, which is very interesting to me because, yes, we still went to Ghost Island, but we didn't break an urn. And there's still a lot of urns left at Ghost Island on where they enter. So I'm really intrigued to see how we use Ghost Island in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I agree with Randy saying that it definitely was the end of his game when he got an extra Tribal, I would have gone for it myself because I
think you have
wouldn't have cared about losing that vote. But I would have used the idol. But with that said, I would have went for it too. But I think his math was wrong when he tried calculating his chances of getting more right.
It's 50% no matter what.
Yeah, I'd say it's 50-50 every time.
Yeah.
So I don't remember him talking too much about the math on that one.
I thought it was just a set of 12, not you pick a side each time.
So you pick a side
each row. You pick either the left or the right, and you're moving your way up. There's 5 sets. You pick this one or this one.
Okay.
And you keep going up. So the chance of him getting all 5 correct was about 3%. For him to immediately get all 5 correct.
Mr. Math Whiz.
Yep.
But I did find that he tried, and I think he did what he had to do. I don't fault him in his decision to go for it. I think especially since you have an idol no matter what. Like you that idol is yours no matter what. So if you lose your vote at this first tribal council, fine, play your idol. You have your idol can basically be your way of voting, and it's more powerful to use your idol and make the second place person go home than for just one vote to be on that person, in my opinion. But
no, I disagree, because I think for Chris Noble specifically, being in such a spotlight and such a public sort of war, you should be planning to use your idol no matter what that round. So
I agree. I 100% agree with that.
Don't risk your vote. Just play your idol and vote. If you're going to use it anyway, there's no point in needing it later.
Yeah, but if he's going to use it, then he might as well have the option. I don't know. There was really no risk for him because the vote really wasn't going to mean much from him. I don't know. I thought he did the right thing, but it really didn't affect him too much. And if anything, it affected him for the worst because he was given a choice, and Chris Noble's the type of person that really shouldn't be given choices.
True.
So back at the Levita tribe, which I'm still getting used to that, which is I don't know how the name came up. I need to watch. I don't know if there's a secret scene out there I need to watch, but
it's very Coldplay.
Yeah. At the next morning, Dom surprisingly is getting annoyed at Chris because Chris is cranky, and I'm assuming because Chris didn't get to sleep because he went to Ghost Island is why he's cranky, but who knows? Dominic buddies up to Libby and Jenna and kind of starts talking to them about his history with Chris and the fake idol and all that stuff. And then we get the greatest Survivor editing of confessionals I think I've ever seen. When we see Dominic and we see Chris kind of both talking, they keep cutting back and forth, and you just see Dom rolling his eyes while Chris is speaking in confessional. I don't know. I really, really liked this scene and the way that they did this. It was great. It was very unlike Survivor to kind of do this. And I really appreciate, I'm a big fan of shady editors. Anytime in a reality show you can get some shady editors in there, I'm a huge fan.
They really had a lot of fun with this.
Exactly. And I thought that this was wonderful use of that. But then we immediately after that, we see Libby and Jenna discuss. With Dom is shady. But Chris, what you see is what you get. So what did you guys think of this series of events and how this all went down here before we get into the Immunity Challenge? Anything
I think
stand
that
out?
was a really good point that they were making. I think that Chris is exactly what you see. You know, he's not lying about anything other than maybe how good he is at things, and he's really good at things, you know? So I think they were on the right track there. Dom already has been lying to everybody openly, talking about how much he's lying, and proud of how much he's lying to people. And Chris has just been really straightforward. So I think they had a really, really good point.
I agree. And this right here is a good example of, and I may be overstepping this here, is where I want people to give Libby more credit. And I think some people are really writing Libby off. And I know we haven't had a ton of screen time, but I think Libby is very smart and has a good read on things and is good with people. And this right here was a nice little subtle showing of that made me very happy because I really like Libby.
Yeah, she might not be in the driver's seat, but she definitely knows what's going on and
she sees the game, and
Yeah,
she
she
sees what's
sees
going
it.
on, and that's one thing I really like about Libby, and that was I really liked seeing that in such a busy episode to see that small scene right there showing that she still sees it, and that made me very happy to see because I have high hopes for Libby. So would you Doug, did you have any comments? Because I saw you agreeing with me on the great Survivor editing in this confessional.
Yeah.
Anything to add on this part?
No, nothing other than it really was uncharacteristic because they had somebody in a confessional reacting to something that was said at camp. And it's so transparent. You know that Dom is not actually reacting, but it was so brilliantly woven that I was like here for it all day.
Absolutely. I agree. So after this, we get into the immunity challenge. But before the immunity challenge, Probst unveils the immunity necklace. And this is something we always kind of talk about our first time seeing the immunity necklace. And this season, it was a piece of rope with some husks, I would say, attached to it with multiple shells, and then one shell in the middle that had the Ghost Island sort of logo on it. And if you even tell, you can see the husks kind of covering it to kind of make the middle shell almost look like a skull, just like the logo. I was a fan of the necklace. I actually liked it. I know I wish there was a little bit more color on it because it was very brown. It was very brown. I wish there was a little bit more to it. I thought it was kind of cool though. Don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot better. I didn't mind it.
Randy, this is one of the worst immunity necklaces.
Yeah,
I didn't mind it.
Not only is it underwhelming, it's underwhelming, it's ugly, and it's tacky.
Yeah.
That disc is tacky. Survivor doesn't do tacky, and this is tacky.
Yeah, are you applying to Survivor, Randy? That's why you're kissing ass right now?
I will agree with underwhelming. It was underwhelming. I still liked it, but I wish but I didn't hate it. But there's a lot that have been better.
But there are few that have been worse.
Yes.
I can agree with you there. Kim, did you have an opinion of the necklace?
I wasn't impressed. I mean, to be honest, I barely remember it. So that's how unimpressed I was.
I liked that it at least kind of had the logo kind of on a little bit on it.
That's the tackiest part.
It was something that you, like when you look at all the immunity necklaces from all the seasons, you know this one is Ghost Island. Like that's what I think that's what I liked about it.
That's fine and all, but like I wish they had done it better. You know, like there's so many things they could have done. They could have done distressed wood, they could have done burnt wood, they could have done a million things. I loved last season when they incorporated like icons from the flags and stuff like that. I agree with you. I love when they do that, but this is just like bad execution. I don't know. They
could have had like a small tiny skull in the middle of the necklace, and it wouldn't be as tacky as this shell thing.
I think we have too many other nice idols here at Ghost Island that they just took the scraps of what they could find. Because Ghost Island.
What do we got left, guys? What's left?
Ghost Island took up too much of the art production budget that they had to do what they could do. So
you know what I'm kind of surprised they didn't do?
What?
I'm surprised. I know that this would be different than what they've been doing, but with all the emphasis on relics from old seasons, I'm surprised they didn't try to recreate elements of old necklaces into a new one. I know that they're not recreating things, but I think
give a different necklace each week. This week, the immunity necklace is the necklace that was worn during Survivor Palau, or you know what I mean? Cool. This week, if we're gonna bring in the history, and a lot of that stuff is on Ghost Island, I think that could have been really cool. That every week it was a different necklace that we've seen before.
That would have been neat. Except one of my complaints with this season, which I was gonna bring up with the JT's idol, is the biggest downside to bringing back old stuff is that this season won't have its own characteristic items, and that's kind of a bummer. So if there is a positive to this necklace, it's at least original.
Yeah, because no matter that JT necklace is always now JT and Chris Noble. Like it's not the Chris Noble idol that he failed to use. It's JT's idol that he was holding. I can agree with you there. So we get into the immunity challenge, and this was a little bit of a twist on a classic, in my opinion. I don't know if we've ever done this exact one, but and the way that I always watch the preview like early in the week where they post them on the YouTube channel and they post like the dream team running through the challenge, and I always find this one interesting. And this one I thought it was great because they had the dream team, but they also had like the sound department, like all the people that are out there holding boom mics, because this is what they do. This is what they do. And I thought that was like such a great idea. And someone from the sound department ended up winning in their little test one. But I thought that was great. But that's really what it is. You're holding a boom mic over your head and balancing a little statue on the end.
Interesting. So that was the inspiration?
Well, the name of the challenge was Audio Slave.
Oh, shoot.
Which I thought was great.
Nice.
So in this challenge, 5 people seem to fall pretty quickly. Then after 20 minutes, everyone has to make it to the end of the beam, and that's where we really see the excitement start to pick up. We see Dominic, Michael, Chris, Laurel, and Wendell all fall in quick succession, trying to get to the end of the beam, leaving only Kellen, Chelsea, and Libby. Chelsea falls, and it's a battle between Kellen and Libby, and Kellen ends up winning and pulling out the first individual immunity of the season. What did you guys think of this challenge, the way it played out, and the fact that Kellen is our first winner?
I thought the challenge was fine. I would like them to mix it up. I know it's an original challenge, but we've seen it. And I love that Kellen won. I actually think that most people shouldn't want to win the first one, and I think Kellen is one of the few people who can get away with it.
It's kind of like...
I agree with that. And I also think that they touch lightly on it later, but just seeing how good Libby did would have been something that I would have kept my eye open on, because it was really close there. I always thought it was a women's challenge to win, not so much for holding the mic, so to speak, just the balancing too, because I think men have a harder time.
Well, it was a lot of balancing because you could set that beam on your head. They were all just setting it on their head.
Yeah.
So most of it was keeping the balance to make sure the thing didn't fall and that your feet are balanced. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the first challenge after the merge is kind of like the first HOH in Big Brother. Like you win that one thing, and then all of a sudden all eyes are on you. But Kellen has been playing such a kind of like under the radar game. So they were just like, oh, we're so happy for you. You're not doing anything anyway. So, you know.
Yes, but if Bradley would have been there, this would have been a lot worse for her.
Yeah.
Because people saw that threat. And as I don't know, I wasn't here last week, and I'm not sure how much you guys talked about it, but it sounds like it was very much a throw last week to get Bradley out of the game.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it too much, but that definitely became apparent like as the week went on, as coverage came out. I figured,
because by Thursday we really didn't know that. And it was as the week went on, we definitely found out more and more that they saw the threat that was Kellen and Bradley together, and they had to eliminate that. So Kellen by herself is a lot less intimidating to people, where as you can see these two women at the end fighting it out, and Kellen wins and everyone kind of forgets her, but Libby gets a close second and she looks like a threat just because of the way that, and I thought that was very interesting. So I don't know. I think it was Caroline in the chat said it was a slow challenge, and I agree. It was slow. I didn't dislike it, but I generally like the more exciting challenges.
I'd be fine with it if I didn't know that we were going to get 2 more like next. You know?
Yeah, I agree. So then we go back to camp, and Chris decides to bring everyone down to the well, except for Dominic and Wendell, to pitch the idea of a vote split to flush Dom's idol. And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds good. We're in. Yeah, we're so in with you. But back at camp, all alone, Wendell tells Dominic about his idol. So they know they're safe. Donathan and Laurel immediately report back to Dom and say say what's going on. We understand what's going on, but we're going to vote for Chris. We should all vote for Chris. When Wendell on his own, which I thought this was great of Dominic and Wendell to split up, divide and conquer. Wendell pitches to Sebastian, Jenna, and Libby. And this is where we see a confessional that I thought was going to be a death note. We see Libby say, I'm just glad it's not me tonight. And that worried me. I really thought that was the end of it right then and there. But then we get a little bit of a twist, in my opinion, where I kind of like seeing, and I think Doug's going to really like here, is that we see the 4 original Davidi women decide to link up and really be like, all this chaos is going on. While everyone's splitting the votes and doing everything, why don't we work together to get out who we want? We can run this game as us 4. And let's vote Libby. So what did you guys think of the house meeting at the well, Dom and Wendell's divide and conquer plan, and the 4 original Navidi women joining up against Libby?
There's so much to unpack there.
Yeah,
yes.
so much.
Let's start with the talking at the well. Let's talk about the way that Chris handled this.
Brilliant television, terrible gameplay, which is all I can ask for. It's part 2 of Chris Noble doesn't understand that people should say yes.
Yeah, so I agree.
The shot of them walking single file to the well is amazing. Oh, it's so good.
It's so ridiculous.
Oh, I love it.
I agree completely. I thought that Chris was way in over his head. And you can tell that, like, as Libby and Jenna said earlier, what he says is what he means. And he's looking at things logically from his perspective. And he's not really a gamer when it comes to this game. And so he thinks he can just look, it strategically makes sense. Let's get rid of the guy with the idol, or at least get rid of the idol. Because on paper, that makes sense. And that's what Chris is looking at. That obviously that should make sense to everyone. Let's do it. We're done.
And it's worked many, many times. It's not like he's acting without precedent. This is a really standard merge thing to do.
Agreed.
He's not wrong.
No,
in the idea phase.
He's just oblivious to reading people's responses to his idea. That I thought that was pretty interesting. But then going back at camp, we see Donathan and Laurel, as we said earlier, coming back to Dominic, because this is a 4 here. Donathan, Laurel, Dominic, and Wendell. It's a pretty strong 4. 4 pretty smart players that know how to work the game, that have multiple relationships throughout the beach. I thought that was interesting. I'm glad to see them back together. We'll talk about this in the next time on, but I think we may see some more about this relationship here. But then the 4 Navidi women. I am here for both of these foursomes. I'm here for both of them. I think the first one you mentioned with Dom, Wendell, Laurel, Donathan is a really fun combination. And the 4 Navidi women, I can't wait to find out why we get to see this. Not to get too much into predictive viewing or anything, but they, spoiler alert, didn't do the thing that they were talking about doing, but we still saw that they thought about it. Yeah, I agree. And that's important that we saw it.
Yes.
Very much so. So even though they didn't really go through with what they discussed, I think this is just the beginning of their plan.
Yeah, because what they discussed was smart for them.
Yes.
Because for those 4 women, the bigger threat is Libby.
Yeah.
Libby is the one taking their spot. Michael is a completely different threat. And Desiree was very on top of it there. She said, it's pretty easy to convince people that Michael's a threat at any time.
Were they conscious about the vote split, or did they leave 2 people out of the loop?
I think that they knew, and I think it was a backup in case of an idol.
Okay.
That's my thought. But who knows? I can't speak to that. But I did think that, because I was really starting to worry that Libby was going home. And if Libby would have went home, it would have been all Desiree. Because I thought that Desiree did a really good job of of speaking her mind on when we're looking at the Malolos that are out there. We see them, and plus, that Desiree has a relationship with Michael, and Kellen has a relationship with Michael. So let's keep the one that's somewhat on our side. We don't really know Libby as well, and I thought that was very interesting that the way that, and if we continue to see Desiree and Kellen protect Michael, I think that could be very interesting.
I do like that they didn't do it, though, just in case. I don't know what their reasoning was for not going through with that, but I like that they didn't yet.
I think it was just the fact that they saw no one was on board with Chris. Because if people would have been on Chris's side and some people on Dominic's side, then it makes sense for these four to maybe be able to run in the middle and have a majority. But I think that it just didn't happen that way. So I think that we solved this conversation for not a huge, I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. They have a back pocket plan, and they didn't get rid of. I know that for them, specifically, we talked a lot about this last season with Chrissy and who her targets were. It makes perfect sense for those women to target their individual biggest threat, who is Libby. But I like that they didn't do it yet. There was a number on the side. Not that there's a side, but there was a number. What am I trying to say? There was a guy that could have been a target, right?
Yeah.
It could have been one of two guys. They still have a back pocket plan in getting rid of one of the women. So they're in a better spot, I think, to have gotten rid of Chris and to still have their own personal threat target ready to go.
Yeah, I agree.
That was word vomit. Well, sorry, everyone.
Libby is more of a threat. Libby is more of a threat to the game that they're playing.
Yeah.
And Michael is not a threat because Michael is playing a completely different game than those four women. So I think it made a lot of sense to them.
I was hoping, and I don't know where you guys are, but I was hoping that the girls would vote out Libby. In my opinion, Libby was the bigger threat out of the two. Out of Chris and Libby, Libby was the bigger threat. Libby has a good relationship with everybody, and she's good at challenges.
Well, I thought they could have split the vote between Libby and Jenna.
Yeah,
that could have been
I think the reason that we didn't do that is that those four women, and part of it you had dropped out because I know you're having internet issues, but part of it is we were talking that if there would have been more people siding with Chris and some people siding with Dominic, then it would make sense for those four women to actually go through with it, that they might be able to be a quiet majority in the middle to be able to vote out Libby, who was their bigger threat. But I think they saw that everyone on the beach was on team Dominic and Wendell. So there's no reason to upset the apple cart right now when they are in a good position. And the fact that they're not exposing that their four is as close as they are.
I think they're in a great position because people were siding with Dom and Wendell, but it felt begrudgingly, right?
Yeah.
Nobody seemed happy with Dominic, Wendell, or Chris. And these four women are tight. They have a target. They have an ally that no one really realizes that they have. They're so set up.
Oh, absolutely. You have four women that are in the majority side on the numbers between the two tribes. And we're at a point in the game where big, strong threats are getting taken out. And you have these four women who haven't been exposed as a tight four yet that can just lay in the shadows. Because right now we're down to seven original Navides. Four of them are women. And then even on the other side, there's a clear female majority left in the game.
Which is not really that characteristic of modern Survivor.
Yeah. Because I think it was interesting that we saw it. And I think it's going to show us a lot about things that are coming up in the future. And I can talk about it here. I have been very back and forth on Kellen. I was very, very, very pro Kellen at the beginning of the season.
What?
She kind of lost me for a couple episodes. But
I never saw it. I don't know what you're talking. You never acted like she lost anything.
Oh yeah, I did.
Doug and I recall that Doug and I were the only ones who were not team Kellen.
part of it was me not being here last week. I was very low on Kellen last week. And some of the things that, I don't know. I'm starting to, but this week she kind of won me back. I don't know.
I'm ready for Kellen. I'm ready for her.
And you're what?
I'm ready for her. We talked last week. I said to Kim, I think that the merge is going to be the time where Kim and I are won over onto Kellen's side. And I still think that that's the case. I think now is the time I'm going to actually get the Kellen content that I've been wanting.
Yeah, well, I hope you're right. I think for me, Kellen I think she's a wonderful, nice person. Again, this is game related.
Yeah.
I just find her a little boring. I haven't seen enough of her yet to say, oh, yeah, like how I feel about Libby. Yeah. I think Libby has done things really great, and I think Kellen right now is coasting, and she's good at challenges. She really is, and I'm not saying if she makes it to the finals, she doesn't have a chance. She does.
Yeah, and I think I just need Kellen to not be the queen bee. And I think she's better playing from not the top position. I think when her and Bradley there together went a lot to her head, and I'm hoping that seeing Bradley get eliminated was a kick in the butt, that she needs to play a little bit differently. And I have high hopes.
Did she say something? What did she say that I didn't like? Oh, what was it? Somebody, Kellen. It was a few weeks ago. And when she said to Angela,
yes.
Yeah, listen, you're in the bottom of this, but us three girls, we're really tight. I mean, you might be in the bottom, but we're tight.
What's interesting though? Not to revisit for too long an old episode, but I was listening to something. I'm sure it was on Rob's podcast somewhere along the way. But Angela, it's weird. I might be willing to take back what I said about Kellen in that episode, because Angela was so desperate for some sort of tight family thing.
She needs a family.
Yeah, that might have actually worked, and I didn't see it at the time. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm really eager to see.
It was more about the way that James didn't view it that way.
Yeah,
and I think that was what was brought up a lot.
And so I'm really eager to see how Kellen plays moving forward, because I think Kellen's ticket to a win is to play Aubrey 1.0 and be visible. Which sounds really, really strange, but Kellen, I think, is the type of person where people will be happy for her when she does good things. Agreed. And what an amazing position to be in. It's like Cochran. People were stoked on his doing well, which is weird.
Yeah, because everyone was very happy for her when she won the individual immunity. But so let's get into Tribal Council. I'll kind of breeze through the event, because there are some interesting things, and we'll hit them for sure here. So as we walk into Tribal Council, Chris lights his torch because it's his first Tribal Council, and he talks about how finally being a Tribal Council makes the game actually feel real. We see Dominic tells the story of his relationship with Chris, going back to day one and going back to the decision that he had to make in the opening challenge. And we see Dominic put on his fake idol, even though he doesn't say it's fake, for everyone to see. And Chris looks very smug here. Like I told you guys, I told you he had it. And Chris and Wendell end up debating back and forth if Dominic is a trustworthy person or not. And Dominic is putting on a performance this whole time, which may have been a little over the top, but it was very Dominic. And a lot of people have an open dialogue the whole time, very open dialogue, that this is either Dom or Chris. This is a Dom versus Chris showdown tonight. And we get that the whole way through. And I think that is a very important point for something that we're going to get to in a little bit. This was very much, it's either Dom or Chris. Now let's back up. And what do you guys think of Dominic and the way that he approached this, and how this Tribal Council went before the vote?
I think it was just ready to just blow it up, and people saw it. It was him or Chris, and he was just trying his best just to try to get the target onto Chris. Yeah. So.
I agree. Dream scenario for everyone else at Tribal. The only thing you could ever want at Tribal Council is that no one pays attention to you.
Yeah.
And there were there were like 10 people sitting there like, oh, thank God, it's not me.
Correct. If Probst
Holy
asks
crap.
if Probst asks you no questions, you're good.
Yeah,
Like-
but there's this one point where Chris just says that he thought he's still getting along with people, and then there were two shots of like Jonathan and Laurel like shooting funny looks his way, and I was just like, oh, here we go.
Also, how did Sebastian get high before the episode? He's like, anyone else? Did everyone else
high?
But he's been out there for 22 days. Did anyone else see him at this tribal council?
If anyone's gonna find it out there, Randy, it's Sebastian.
He's on Ghost Island.
That's very true. I thought that was just so funny. Well, when we get to the actual voting part, at the vote, Chris doesn't vote because as he's never voted the whole season, which is kind of interesting. Dominic votes very loudly for everyone to hear. I am voting for Chris. Everyone to hear. I am voting for Chris. And then Wendell delivers the greatest voting confessional I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love this. And I'm so glad it happened because the way Wendell was getting defensive earlier in the episode, I was really starting to kind of sour on Wendell in the middle of the episode. And then he won me 100% back over. With just this is one voting confessional right here where you're trash. You have no bars. Put down the mic. And you are trash at rapping. You are.
Someone
trash.
has to tell you. Stop rapping. Stop rapping.
I'm so glad they showed that whole thing. That was gold.
Starting and stopping. You're trash. Was the great.
Yeah, that's where I got my trash word from.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was so great here. At this. So what were you about to say, Doug, about Dom's vote?
I can't with Dom's vote because here's the thing. Like, I know that Dom doesn't have all the information. So, like, I think some people probably are willing to give him a pass. I'm not, because that's not smart, dude. It's not smart at all. We've seen people do this in other seasons, and it was smart. In Australian Survivor, it happened, and it wasn't just smart, it was brilliant. They worked around the rules, and that's what they did.
Annalise, I believe, is what it was.
Yes.
Yes.
That was brilliant. And like, even if you haven't seen that season, go watch that Tribal because it's worth understanding where this can actually be strategic. Dom wasn't being strategic. Dom was being petty, and it could have bit him in the ass and should have bit him in the ass so hard. So I'm not about that vote. Fun TV, terrible move, Dom. You're better than that.
Yep. So then when we get back to Jeff says, "Does anyone want to play an idol?" Dom gets up, doesn't play his fake idol, doesn't play his real idol, but tells everyone about the legacy advantage that he has and plays the legacy idol, which of course he should play the legacy advantage idol.
Yes. This is the level of play. This is him living up to the correct level of play.
This is what you're doing. And so the whole tribal, it's either Dom or Chris. And now Dom is safe. Then
and Chris still doesn't play his idol.
Chris doesn't play it. Wendell doesn't play his. Michael doesn't play his. No more idols. We see one idol get played. And Chris is voted out by 10 to 2 vote, with Desiree and Angela being the only people to vote for Libby. What did you guys think of this decision, and why did it happen?
Chris, what the heck? Like, you had no vote. You had no say in which way the vote goes. But, and you knew it was going to be either you or Dominic. Then why don't you play your damn idol?
You have the only rationale for him is that he thought people were on his plan and were going to get out Wendell. But that's
all
not
10
enough.
of them.
That's not enough.
Yeah, no.
Not enough at all. I was so irritated. Because I think even, I watched this later last night, and Randy, I think you even saw me tweeting about it.
Oh, yeah.
I
was live liking your live tweets.
Well, and you...
I thought that it was really funny to read some of your tweets through there, as I think you may have frozen. But I don't understand why Chris was so confident. And as we said earlier, him extending the life of his idol was his downfall. That if he would have been here where he couldn't have a choice. As we said, don't give Chris Noble choices. Don't let him think for himself. Like, tell him that this is when you have to use this idol tonight, and everything would have been fine. And sadly, Libby would have gone, which would have been heartbreaking for Libby to go out that way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we still would have had the Dom versus Chris civil war going on. So I don't know. And now as Doug returns, Doug can finish. I thought he would still be ranting, like, even as he came back.
I caught on.
Let's rewind. Let's rewind back and let
is.
you rant where you were ranting.
Okay, don't know how far I got. What I wanted was for all five. Okay, great. So what I wanted was for all 5 immunity situations, including the legacy advantage, to be played at the same time. We get a reset, which means we get to see even more. We get to see, stuff happening instead of build up. And then we get something unpredictable. But you even saw me tweet this. I said, but I bet what we're going to get is one person playing immunity and an obvious easy vote. Yep. And I was so irritated when he didn't play his idol because I was like, damn it, I'm going to get exactly what I didn't want out of this episode. I was so mad. It was so boneheaded. I mean, it's fun to watch those things because you need people to make stupid mistakes for the show to keep happening. But damn, was I frustrated. I was so frustrated with Chris.
I agree. So I was thinking about this. Is at that tribal council, we actually didn't we have 6 different forms of...
Yes.
We had 6 different forms of individual immunity that were available. 6
people could have been immune at the same time.
Think about the final 6, because the final 6, the legacy is also there. We could have had, like, it would have been everyone. Like, we can't let things like that happen. You can never have it where there's more immunities than there are people. Like,
this is why.
This is why they need to stop fucking doing. Ooh.
But I don't think they've been over. I don't think they've been over the top.
They need to stop.
They've been over the top. I think it's just. Well, I guess that one. Let me rewind that back. They did build that into, because there's no way even adding 5 immunities that Chris's would have extended that far. So they did play within the rules. I would say I'm fine with them being more idols, and like the amount of idols that are out there makes sense. There's been one at each camp. They found one at Ghost Island. I'm cool with that. But be good about the rules. But I guess they were, now that I think back on that, because there's no way that all 6 of those would have been available at the same tribal council.
Yes. So. And this is what I do like about Chris's JT idol. I don't like that it's JT's idol, but I do love what they decided to do with that. I would be all for them just doing that one time for the hell of it and just saying, like, this is a new advantage. This is a new kind of idol. Yeah. Instead of, creating some sort of weird lore about it.
I love the short-term decisions that they've been doing recently.
Yeah.
So this elimination led us to non-hyperbolic, the greatest Ponderosa video I have ever seen. And if anyone has not seen it, you need to see it. Whoops. Because this is very much of a left turn from any other Ponderosa video you've ever seen. And all I'm going to say is it ends with a rap video.
Shocking.
No expenses spared. No expenses spared. My goodness.
And yes, it is goofy. And yes, it is corny. And yes, it's making fun of Chris for the most part. But Chris is in on the joke, in my opinion. Chris, you see Chris like kind of play it up at the end. He's like, "Yep, nailed it." Like that's one thing. And he even says in his Ponderosa that I'm not a sore loser. They got me, and I believe that. I believe that Chris is not a sore loser, and that because even right afterwards he's like, "Yep, they got me. I should have played it." And I think that I like that about Chris is that because I think if it would have gone the other way and Dominic would have been eliminated, Dominic would have been sour forever and whiny, and that would have drove me crazy.
Yeah, I think that Chris is the type of person who was making dumb decisions, but he was making dumb decisions because he saw this as a game and was like, it's me versus you, and I'm not going to give up on that competition. He's an athlete, right? He can take a loss, but he's also not going to stand down. So it perfectly explains every dumb thing he did. And I agree with you. I love that he can just be like, "Nah, they got me," Yeah.
I think that I thought that was great. So as we go from here, so yeah, as I was saying, if you haven't seen that Ponderosa, you have to ASAP. And so now I will talk through our draft results. Can you guys see the draft results here?
Let me put you.
Can you see the draft results? Please let me
There
know
you
when
go.
you're able to see them. Okay, so the draft results. I am still in the lead with 116 points with Sebastian, Kellen, Laurel, and Libby.
Yeah.
Kim is in third with Wendell, Jenna, Michael, and losing Chris this episode with 104 points. Saul is in third place with 81 points with Dominic, Donathan, and Desiree. And Mark is trailing behind, even though he got to pick the draft order, with 75 points. with
Randy.
With his last two picks of the draft, Angela and Chelsea.
And these two are solid. I'm okay with these two.
Okay.
If you're cool with seeing both of your people go out in the same episode, because they've got that written all over them.
Whatever.
Yeah, I definitely see that possibility. Or no vote finalist. It could be.
Either one of them.
From where we are here, Kim, what do you have to say for Chris? As Chris was, I believe, the 18th pick in the 19th pick in the draft. Yeah, it would have been 19th, I believe, pick in the draft.
I will say that he entertained me. He was better than I thought he'd be, but his cockiness got in the way. He was fun to watch. Hated to see him go. I will watch that Ponderosa video. Wish he would have played the idol. You know, he went down with the JT curse. Playing an idol that you didn't need to play is always better than going home with an idol in your pocket. You know, I just don't understand why he didn't play that idol, but he's now gone. So,
yeah, I thought that, he definitely should have used the idol here tonight. That was a major mistake. I find it funny that Chris and Libby were our last two picks in the draft, which were the two that could have gone home tonight. I'm not sad that I got stuck with Libby as the number 20 pick in the draft there. But yeah, that was a mistake for Chris.
Yep.
So next time, I'll talk about the next time on, and we'll back up just a little bit. Next time on, we see Wendell tell Laurel about his idol, and she seems concerned because Wendell and Dominic have way too much power. Who knows if that will go anywhere, but I thought that was interesting to see. I couldn't really get the vibe of what was going on, but a lot of people were saying Michael's name in the preview. I don't know if that was good, bad, or what, but there was a lot of saying Michael's name. And it's a gross food eating competition, which yes. I'm assuming for immunity, maybe for reward, but I'm all for it. And I would really love to see the return of a Survivor auction as well. But I don't know, all these things that are cursed, we'll see how they return. So looking back on the episode, who was the MVP of the episode? Who wants to go first? Usually I assign someone, and everyone gets mad at me. If no one speaks up in a minute, I will say mine, and you guys will have to deal with it if you have the same one as me.
I actually think this is a really frustrating episode to do it for, because when I look at it, I'm not looking at longevity. I'm looking at immediacy, and there were really only 3 people that were trying to do anything in the immediate.
You only get one. You only get one.
All right, I'm gonna
I don't break these rules.
Don't name all these 3, so we then all have to repeat of someone you already picked. You get to claim one.
Who do you think I am?
Okay, Kim, who is your MVP? Go ahead.
My MVP is Dominic.
Okay. He got what he wanted.
He got what he wanted. He was able to stay safe, even though he played his idol. He kept Wendell safe, so to speak. So yeah. Dominic is my MVP.
And he gained information by knowing that Wendell has an idol.
Yes.
Who wants to go next?
Because I feel like it now. My MVP is Angela. Screw you, Randy.
Okay. I'll take it. My MVP this episode was Miss Kellen for winning the immunity and starting the female Navidi uprising. So
I don't know. You like Kellen from the beginning, so snooze.
I think that this is a great episode for Kellen.
You picked her before. I've never picked Dominic.
That's fine because
I'm not a
Dominic's
big
never done
Dominic
anything
fan.
good this season before today.
Neither
And
has Kellen, but you still.
I think that she was the MVP this episode, and I gave my reasons. Mark, who do you say?
Well, I'm just gonna put out Chelsea's name because I feel like it.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. Well, don't give an explanation though. Like we want no explanations.
I'm not gonna.
Just names.
There you go.
Doug, do you have someone else that you want to say? Now you can say your 3 people that you were thinking.
Thank you so much. I was only ever going to name one person, but what I was trying to say is that it's tough because there are 13 people on the cast, and only 3 people to reasonably choose from. Kellen's not one of them. Get away from me. Dominic is the only one
she wanted that immunity necklace, and she got it. Doesn't that fall into your criteria?
No, it doesn't.
I'm 100% being an ass.
Dominic is the only one we saw strategically get the thing that he wanted. Wendell would have been very close, except that he didn't get what he wanted. So, Dominic, you get my MVP.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you.
I agree. I obviously agree with Dominic.
You already picked Kellen. You can't.
Let me talk. I think that I
just 100%. Like he let me talk. Make sure you let him
I
talk.
tried to make you go first. I just didn't want you to start going on a whole spree of naming all these people because we tried not to pick the same person. So
I've never done that.
Yeah, but sometimes you need to pick the same person.
I think that Dominic and I still think Kellen was a good one because I usually try to pick.
Other than her winning the immunity idol, why do you think she's the leader of the 4-person group and not Desiree?
I said in the beginning, I thought that Desiree, if Libby would have went home, it would have been 100% Desiree's win.
Yeah,
but
I do think that Desiree.
That's why I'm majority basing it off the individual immunity, and then also her inclusion in that. Like that's really I'm 100% being hyperbolic here and naming things of who I think.
Nope. I'm also doing thumbs down, by the way, because
you're entitled to your wrong opinion. So, Mark, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at MarcoPolo310. You can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/MarcoPolo310. And exciting announcement right now: we're going to be covering Survivor New Zealand for this upcoming season with me and Doug. So check us out.
Yeah,
I might join for a week sometime. I might sub in if you
don't have
if you guys
to.
invite me.
You'll ask, but we'll say no.
I won't ask because it killed me last season.
Yeah,
don't have it because he's always gonna pick the boring players. So don't pick him.
I really think that I stopped watching when Georgia got eliminated last season because she was the only one I liked.
That's fair.
And so Kim, I don't know if I should even ask for people to find you because you've been mean to me. But I'm the nice one here. I'm the nice one here. So Kim, where can people find you online?
Kim is bored on Twitter, and I just got Snapchat, but I'm not real good at it because I don't know how to use it. But I think you can find me under Kim is bored, but no underscores because somebody else took it. I was pretty pissed. I'm like, why would someone else have that?
Someone's trying to act like you.
I think it's Kim_is bored. I think that's what my thing is, but I don't know. I'll post a link on Twitter or something because I don't really understand it.
You know you're famous when somebody else takes your handle on something else. You're famous.
Someone's trying to act like they're you.
Yeah.
Doug, before I get to actually meet you in person in a couple of weeks, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me online on Twitter at Ickybooly, ICKYBOOLEY, or in Boston in a couple weeks.
Woohoo! I'm excited for Boston.
Yeah.
So yeah, I should be here next week, but not the week after that, because I will also be in Boston for Survivor Know It All's Live, and I'm very excited for that. You can find me online at Randy Knoop. That's RandyKNUP. I think that's it. Anyone else have anything to say?
No.
That's about it.
Okay, good merge episode. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.